right, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for coming to this Q&A. This is my very first Q&A, and you all really spoiled me because there were some really awesome questions, things that I really, really enjoy talking about, and I can't wait to go into every single one. We'll have time for all the questions today, which is amazing. Just to give you a little highlight of what we'll go over, we're going to be talking about losing a period and how to get it back. We're going to be talking about why altitude may trigger period cramps. We'll talk about how to support friends who have been trying to conceive for a while. Any advice or guidance about coming off hormonal birth control and using a more natural method of family planning. And then finally, we'll talk about the best cocktail of supplements. I love how that question was worded to enhance fertility. And then, well, what the fuck does unexplained infertility actually mean? And can you address it without IVF? Yes, you can. And I can't wait to dive in. So we'll start with the very first one, which is all about losing your period. So why does it happen? How do you get it back? So for the person that asked this question and the information provided, what we would call a case like this, where you go from having a regular period to losing it, would be secondary hypothalamic amenorrhea. So secondary meaning you used to get a period, you no longer do. Hypothalamic meaning the issue is with the brain, not not your brain has an issue, but it's a communication issue in the brain. And amenorrhea is a technical term for no period for at least 3 months in a row if you were regular, or at least 6 months in a row if you were irregular menstrual cycles previously. But what I want everyone to know is that when you lose your period, the issue isn't down here in your abdomen or with your reproductive system at all. It's up here. So when you have a functional condition like secondary hypothalamic amenorrhea, it is reversible because it's not an issue with an organ. It's simply a communication problem. So in cases like this, your brain is choosing to suppress the release of hormones for our reproductive organs due to a direct result of chronic stress. So really all it's doing is making the conscious choice to conserve energy. It's a survival mechanism. So this happens in situations where we're simply not eating enough, so underfueling, over-exercising, or in conditions of chronic stress. There's nothing wrong with your brain or with your reproductive system. There simply isn't enough available energy to shuttle to a system that's really not needed to keep you alive until tomorrow. So when I say that, it sounds kind of crazy, but really ovulation, which is what triggers menstruation, is an optional function. Your body can and will shut it off under any conditions where it's going, okay, we don't have enough resources to sustain everything. And we know we need to keep the heart beating and the lungs breathing and the brain thinking and the digestive system working and the muscles moving. So they don't need to ovulate or have a period in order to make that happen. That's why I always say, in any case of unoptimized health, the reproductive system is the first to go, and this is why. So one of the most important things to do to get it back online is to just simply give it more energy. This will tell it, okay, now you can divert those nutrients and energy and oxygen back to the reproductive system. The best way to do that is to focus on protein and fat intake. So everyone has a unique optimal calculation based on your own metrics. So definitely reach out if you are interested in getting yours. But when I say fat and protein, I mean mainly from animal sources. We're provided with these building blocks that we make our hormones with. So we've been so conditioned to be anti-fat and to be afraid of it, but nothing could be further from the truth. It's so necessary for optimal health because fat source provides us, it's the precursor for estrogen and for progesterone. When we're not eating enough, we simply lack the raw materials to make these hormones, to get them to the levels they need to be to trigger ovulation and then to then have a menstrual cycle. So it's not just about eating more to tell your brain, okay, now we have enough energy and nutrients to get that back online. It's also about eating the right things. So for this individual, some really good things to try would be not skipping breakfast if you were. And by breakfast, I mean within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. And if this feels really hard for you to do, absolutely start small. It doesn't have to be a huge, 30 to 40 grams of protein meal, but just simply eating something that early and to maybe make it a source of protein and healthy fat like eggs, yogurt, nut butters. These things are really going to help blunt a cortisol spike, balance blood sugar, and add to your energy needs for the day that are going to be the things to tell your brain, hey, it's safe to ovulate now. And then plan to have your next meal within 3 to 4 hours of breakfast. It's like a really good rhythm to follow. Snacking is, of course, okay if you're not accustomed to the larger meals. And then with that, no fasted workouts. So you can absolutely still work out in the morning. But when we're talking about bringing these things back online and telling the brain and the body it's safe to start shuttling resources, you don't want to be doing anything on an empty stomach, especially a fasted workout. So eat something first and then do your workout. And then do a full audit on your exercise. So are you doing too much at too high an intensity? Do you feel completely drained? Are you working out to punish your body? Or are you working out to support it? And would you feel better, or have you felt better, when you've scaled back to a lower intensity or just gone on a break for a few days or a week or two? And then finally, to understand that our body will either make stress hormones or sex hormones, they share a precursor. So when we're chronically stressed and we have conditions of undereating and overexercising, the body's making all the stress hormones, simply not sex hormones. So the body needs to feel safe, like I've said, to restore these functions. So focusing on sleep, mindfulness, your friends, community, self-compassion, like routines that bring you joy. It's not talked about enough, but these things are very, very important to signaling to the body that, okay, we can bring this back online. So the time to recovery looks very different per individual, but in the research, they typically found that when you've got a plan that's fitted to you and you do stick with it, you can restore your period anywhere from between 2 and 15 months. So if anyone would like some more personalized guidance on that, absolutely reach out. But there is absolutely hope for this. It is completely reversible. And it's very important to understand the reason why and then how to go about resolving it for that question. And for everyone here, just so you know, I will be looking at the chat occasionally. So if you have anything to add, I will do my best to check it. Just so you know, please feel free. The next one is about going to altitude levels and it triggering very, very intense period pain that then lasted for years and years and years. Now, of course, I am not diagnosing anything, but I can say based on the information from this question, which the variables were excruciating pain, stomach upset, cramps that came cyclically with their cycle, this does sound like possible endometriosis. And I want to talk about endometriosis because it's a lot more common than we're led to believe. And it's really massively misunderstood. So endometriosis is not a period issue, actually at all. It's an inflammatory one. And it doesn't come out of nowhere, even though seemingly it appears to, but it can be asymptomatic forever or for a very long time. And what it is it's triggered by our environment. So one of those is hypoxia or conditions of low oxygen. So what potentially could have been happening in this scenario is endometriosis. What it is lesions of endo-like tissues that form their own blood and nerve supply. So, and then when the body senses something like that, they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? They send a flood of immune cells to that area. And contrary to popular belief, even though most of the time that tissue grows around the abdomen and around the uterus and fallopian tubes and things like that, it can really be anywhere. They've even found endometriosis in the brain. So what happens is all these immune cells rush in, they demand a large amount of oxygen, and they're going to take it from the tissues that should have been getting it. So you're ending up with this chronic hypoxic state in the tissues, add in conditions of low oxygen, that is a recipe for pain. So why it lasts could be and is because, well, potentially this may have what happened. The lack of oxygen can epigenetically alter your body's cell behavior. So what it's doing is at the genetic level, now changing the way that cell responds. And now you have this chronic condition that you can't seem to figure out. But the good thing about endo, I say good, is it's more a verb than it is a noun. So you're either actively endoing or unendoing. And you may have heard, because we all have, there's no cure. There's no cure for endometriosis. And while that may be true, there is definitely the possibility of getting it into remission. I personally myself have done this where, getting your symptoms down from a 7, 8, 9 out of 10 down to like a 1 out of 2 out of 10, simply from altering things like food and your environment and mindfulness and making these very soothing inputs that counterbalance and then eventually negate the negative inputs. So things like good nutrition, deep breathing, sleep, hydration, outside time, self-compassion, they help put endo into remission. So that is likely what happened to this I do know the person who asked this question lives very consciously in that way. So that's probably what happened is you did get your endometriosis into remission based on, having a very conscious way of living and doing so in a very mindful and healthy way. So if you want more information on endometriosis, if you have suspected endometriosis, I really recommend this book called Heal Endo, or if you know anyone that does, by Katie Edmonds. It's fantastic. It completely rewrites the way we've been taught about endometriosis. It's something that's, incredibly common. 1 out of 10 women of reproductive age experience this. And are typically never given answers. So we're definitely changing the way we talk about these very chronic conditions and give a lot more hope back into the equation. So I really enjoyed that question. The next one is, how can I support my friends who have been trying to conceive for a while? And I think this is a fantastic question. And I'm also like, anyone has any input on their experiences or their experience with others, add it in, please. But I would like to break this into kind of two different routes, because obviously this in general is so deeply personal and unique depending on your friend, your relationship with them. But if they are having a hard time, our immediate reflex is to give advice. And everyone and their mother does that. But I actually wouldn't encourage us to go that route, especially if they're just looking for support and they're not asking for advice. The best thing to do is just be there for them, let them cry, vent and share. And then the additional layer, I would say, is to help them pursue rest and joy. So what are the things they love to do? Can you help them do that more? So if it's sending them a funny video or going on a walk or having a really good phone call or a cup of tea somewhere, rest and joy are so underrated in the fertility sphere, but they're so important because healing only happens in a parasympathetic state. And when we say like balanced nervous system, super simply, all it means is most of us are like way high on the sympathetic fight or flight side. We're not getting enough of the parasympathetic, rest and digest side. So when we focus on rest and joy, what we're really doing is pulling them more in balance, because the rest and digest side, is where you really heal and where optimization of health is happening. So getting anyone more into that side of the equation is naturally going to benefit them. But what I find talking with a lot of people who are trying to conceive is that it's very easy for the world to shrink. And it's very easy to have it disappear to micromanaging cycles and canceling plans and holding off on plans because of a 2-week wait. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things, but ideally what would happen is our world should expand. And it's not canceling plans, it's not putting severe restrictions on ourselves, it's living your life so fully that getting to try to conceive is an additional bonus. And then, not that we're just, la-di-dying around, we're then going to know that we're living our life doing the best things, doing the best things we can with the best available information, because we have really good information, but no one tells us it. So that's why I'm like so passionate about this topic, because the more you know how to make the best, most informed decisions for yourself, then you've already controlled the only variable you can, which is yourself. So then that brings me to the second route, was if they are asking for advice, then yeah, absolutely give it. If you're curious for resources on my checklist, so it's for free on the website, I do have a whole section of resources that I've vetted very, very closely, and things like books, podcasts, workout videos, product recommendations. And that way, if you don't feel like you have the technical know-how to help them, a lot of those are really good resources. I always recommend, now that it's a newer book, but it's, oh, I have it here. Real food for fertility, if they're looking for like nutrition advice or supplement advice. This is by Lily Nichols and Lisa Hendrickson Jack. But because this, this space is so nuanced and it's so personalized to what they need and what they've done and where they're at, if you do need specific, if you're looking for specific resources, absolutely reach out, let me know, and I would love to help you find them because it's funny, the fertility space is so small, but it's also so big. You can find some really, really niched, wonderful experts, just like Katie Edmonds with endometriosis, doing amazing things, ridiculously science backed. And it's like, why aren't we all told this? Why aren't we all told this stuff and how to explain it and given it early on? So yeah, absolutely reach out if you need something specific. The next question was specific guidance or advice about coming off hormonal birth control and then a more natural method of fertility planning. And yes, I have that. So what I would recommend for this particular case is the fertility awareness method. Now, this can be used for effective birth control, and this can be used to try to conceive. It's all a matter of, either targeting or avoiding. But what this fertility awareness method is not, it's not the rhythm method. It's not natural family planning. It's not even something that someone with an irregular cycle can't do. The method I'm talking about using and also getting certified in is symptothermal tracking. So sympto, meaning we look at symptoms, so most specifically cervical fluid, and thermal, so we're tracking basal body temperature, and using the two to basically the whole point of fertility awareness is, can you answer the question each day, am I fertile, yes or no? And it's getting an answer with 99% accuracy. I mean, it's been validated the same way that other birth control methods have, and the efficacy is at 99%. There are rules to this. There is a learning curve, but when you're armed with the information, you absolutely can use this confidently for birth control, or you can use it confidently for trying to conceive. So the reason it's so effective is because you use two methods, basically two data points. So the cervical fluid and the basal body temperature to open and close the fertile window. So you know exactly when it starts, exactly when it ends, and you do a double check. So you have now two pieces of data that are giving you information on, are you fertile, yes or no? Are you fertile, yes or no? And that's how we set these boundaries. So many women are surprised to find out that we're infertile more often than we are fertile in our cycle. It's only 5 to 6 days per cycle that we actually are fertile. So really nailing or avoiding that window is everything when it comes to managing this method. So actually, do I want to show you guys? I will show you. I'll show you my chart. This is my very first chart. And I'm very excited to show you. Let's see. Oh, I'll answer this question really first. How important is sleep to period health and fertility? Massively. Excellent question. It's massively important. The optimal level is around 7 to 9 hours. And sleep is so important for the main reason per night. Main reason being is because, well, actually, there's a few reasons, but the main is because that rest and digest that I was talking about of the nervous system is allowing so much positive biological changes to happen at the reproductive level. Also, melatonin, the hormone we release when we sleep, supports egg quality. So it's like an egg quality enhancer. So we know that to be true. And other than that, when it comes to hormonal regulation, so, we know estrogen, progesterone, yeah, totally, but cortisol, insulin, like these are all hormones too. And the fastest, best, cheapest, easiest way to balance those, so like just to get them in regulation, to hit the levels they need to hit when they need to hit them, is really what balanced hormones mean, is sleep. So the consistency is important. So making sure you're falling asleep within 1 to 2 hours of the same time every night and waking up with between 1 to 2 hours of the same time every night. Obviously, no one's perfect. No one's getting perfect sleep all the time. But I would say what you do most of the time is what matters most. So excellent question. I do have some sleep tricks in that free checklist if you want to check it out. But sleep is massive. Wonderful, wonderful question. But I'm going to show you guys. Ooh, where is it? And if I can't, that's okay. but I was excited about it. I'm gonna show you my chart, but that's okay. Oh, how do I get out of here? You can't see anything, can you guys? Okay. Next time I will. But essentially, maybe I can show you my phone. Essentially, what cycle tracking is it looks scary at first, but okay. So I know everyone thinks I saw a nine, I saw your face. But basically, when I say sympto, here down here, and you learn all this. Like I could teach you all this stuff. Basically, you get to this is beyond the taking charge of fertility, like egg white mucus, dry, like that's a bit more, it's great, but it's a bit more simple. This is very it's standardized across the way you can't be mistaken about what you're seeing come out of your vagina, essentially. And we're tracking everything that does. So we're talking like, can you identify if it's fertile? Is it not? So I have my sympto information here with corresponding notations. Again, you're taught all this. This is why you don't use your first cycle tracking as birth control because like I got this reviewed the other day and I definitely did make some mistakes. But this is thermal, of course. So I'm a scientist, so I love data. I have my aura here. I wanted to see how it compared to a true basal body temperature thermometer. So I have both. Very interesting. But if I was on my computer, I could show you the ovulation is confirmed when we see a sustained rise in temperature from the progesterone. So I see that, which is amazing. But now I can double check when my window opened and when it closed using both pieces of data. So this is how you can get to that 99% accuracy. It's learning how to use the method. It's getting through that learning curve. But you're really setting yourself up for success because if you use it for birth control, you could use it like that for the rest of your life, or you could easily transition to trying to conceive. And now you're like, all right, cool. Instead of missing that, I'm going to target it. So that's why I love that so much. And if you're interested in learning, I'll plug it here. In a few months, I will have to take on case study clients. So if you want to work with me at a discount, please let me know. You would be doing me a massive and yourself a huge favor. But if you want to learn more, this is the book I always recommend too about cycle tracking, getting to know your period better. It's The Fifth Vital Sign by Lisa Hendrickson Jack. Actually, she is the certifier of the course I'm in. So if you want your cycle to learn how to cycle track, she would potentially be the woman who literally wrote the book on the stuff, could be looking at your cycle too, completely nameless. But I would consider that a total bonus. So I can't recommend that book, and her podcast is amazing. I recommend that in my resources. It's so good. You will learn so much. And then finally, love this question. It's two, I'll break it into two parts. Is there a preferred cocktail of supplements to enhance fertility? Yes. So I'll start big scale. In general, for healthy reproduction, I have my top three favorite supplementation recommendations that are the safest. So as in most people are naturally low in these three nutrients, they're the most researched and they're the most effective. And they're also, and when I say safest, also like if you were not to be low, you don't have to take necessarily a blood test to confirm because taking them in higher doses is perfectly safe. It's not going to do anything to you. So those three are vitamin D, magnesium, and omega-3. I would say any age, any life stage across the board, we all can benefit from these three nutrients. However, when it comes to targeting fertility specifically, what do we mean when we say optimize fertility? Well, we of course mean healthy ovulation and healthy menstrual cycle function. We also mean optimal egg quality and optimal sperm quality. Now, I will say a traditional semen analysis is not going to test for sperm quality, and it really matters because they could have DNA damage, they could be missing heads, they could be looking real freaky. And there are plenty of things that the male party can do to increase sperm quality, which I think everyone should be doing, quite honestly. But in terms of specific micronutrients, to give you a very practical recommendation for both egg and sperm quality, there is a supplement that has blended the most clinically proven potent antioxidants together. And full disclosure, I am an ambassador for this brand only because I take them myself. I know that it's RD formulated personally, and it's the science behind it is exceptional. It's called Fertility Booster, and I'll link it. I did anticipate someone would like a link. That does get you 20% off because I love to share. But the thing is about it is you can take it in conjunction with like a prenatal if you are, or a multivitamin, and it's not going to conflict with anything. It is actually an enhancer because it's not going to double down on the nutrients you're already getting in a prenatal or a multi. What it is it's additional antioxidants that studies have found over and over to boost both egg and sperm quality. So men can take it, women can take it. I think it's a wonderful addition if you're looking specifically to optimize either egg, sperm health, or both. So, yeah, any other supplement questions, absolutely send them in. But the next question, what the heck does unexplained infertility actually mean? And how does one address it without IVF? Unexplained infertility means they just don't know yet. That's all it means. It is a lazy and it is a dangerous diagnosis. Now, on one hand, I can understand a doctor who has done their due diligence, they've run all the tests, they've exhausted, their options for what they could look for, and they can't seem to find a root cause. But then they say something like this. And the reason it's so terrible to me is because there's always a reason. It's just that they haven't found it yet. And to double down on how bad I think it is, you say unexplained infertility to someone, and that puts that in their head. So the bomb that drops mentally and emotionally, it's so wrong because we know that mental and emotional health is just as important, if not more so, than our physical health. So it drives me crazy when I hear this. If a doctor ever gave me unexplained infertility diagnosis, I would flip them off. No, I'm kidding. I might. I would give them the whole spiel, and then I would say, thank you very much. I'm going to go pursue my other options and get an answer somewhere else. That being said, I'm so happy you asked the second piece. What can be done about it? A lot. There's a lot you can do. So I'll give as much as I can here, but I would recommend if you are interested in just like total fertility optimization, preparation, knowing the body a bit better, I do have a course called Fertility Empowered, and the whole second piece talks just about this. It's like food, supplements, exercise, your environment, down to like the clothes, like what things should you look for or not look for in your clothes, and personal care products. We know a lot of this from a scientific perspective. Like what things in our modern environment are damaging potentially our fertility. But it's unfortunate that many doctors aren't able to provide this before going straight to IVF recommendations, because it really does make a difference. There's absolutely a lot that can be done. So I love that question so much. I would love if we annihilated that term. I would love if we annihilated the term geriatric pregnancy, because similar to, being over 35 is not a death sentence. And everything I'm talking about ways that you can improve egg quality and sperm quality and, restore healthy ovulation and know exactly what your hormones are doing. That's the other thing about the symptothermal tracking. Everything your body's doing is a direct result of a hormone level. So even seeing cervical fluid, your estrogen is rising. Your cervix is open, and estrogen does that. Even seeing an increase in basal body temperature, you've ovulated, because progesterone does that. So all it is it's just getting direct feedback on, are you hitting these healthy levels? How are things looking hormonally? And doing that in advance, like knowing your body so well, knowing these signs so well, it's very easy to know what's going wrong ahead of time. When that way you don't have to like sit there in an office and be told all this and say, hey, why didn't anyone tell me I should look for this sooner? Let's see. Unique issue. Oh, awesome. Yes, I see your question. And I actually answered this first. I did get you first. Let me sum it up for you though, and then I will send you the recording and you can go back and get all the detail. But it was a wonderful question. Essentially, the big takeaways is yes, you can absolutely get it back. It's nothing wrong with your reproductive system. All it is it's just the brain making a choice. I don't have enough energy to send to the reproductive system because of a condition of chronic stress. And chronic stress can be summed up as, being constantly stressed out, lack of sleep, under eating, or over exercising. Those are the big ones we tend to see the most. So I gave some tips on, food recommendations, timing. So the biggest, I'll say it again because it's really so important for everyone here, to eat breakfast. When you're in a cycling body, it really, really does help to have breakfast because we really need it for the hormonal support. And also, if you are someone who fasts, so if you like to do time restricted feeding, I'm not saying don't do that. I will say shift the window earlier. So instead of starting at noon, start at 8 a.m. and you'll have a hormonal benefit. No, totally. You're so good. You're so fine. I will absolutely send everyone the recording. Can you explain thyroid issues? Yes. So the thyroid is a master regulator. So to really understand it, I won't actually go. If you want to reach out to me, we can talk about this more. But in general, what your thyroid is going to do is it's going to control things like your temperature. It's going to control things like metabolism. It's going to also be involved in that brain organ communication I was talking about earlier. And you can absolutely see negative effects subclinically. So under control, I'm taking that to mean you went to a doctor and they saw your tests fall in a normal range and they were like, don't worry about it. No, the thyroid, even if thyroid hormone suppression is subclinical, so subclinical meaning it won't show up on a test, but it'll be like a little low or a little high in that normal range. It can absolutely affect ovulation and then pregnancy. So, or I guess you should say attempting pregnancy, so trying to conceive. So, what to look for at first is, so do a full thyroid panel if you have, then amazing. Then there are definitely things that we can look for in the particular tests. So for instance, like thyroid antibodies would be really important. And then in conjunction with other things as well. So vitamin D and thyroid are really connected. So that was another reason why I recommended, everyone across the board could really benefit from a vitamin D supplement, because oftentimes you'll see an improvement in thyroid function as well. But yeah, maybe because this one is specific, we can talk offline, but yes, it absolutely is related. Yeah, totally, Jenny. Great question, though. I think everyone of reproductive age should get a full thyroid panel. I mean it. Because it just tells you so much. Another, here I am going on and on about the cycle tracking, but you saw my temperatures in the chart. If those were consistently low, because most people fall within a range. And if I was seeing someone's chart and they had consistently low temperature, you can essentially say, oh, you might have a thyroid problem simply from someone who's just taking their temperature every day. It's amazing because it's such a master regulator of things like basal body temperature, hormones, metabolism, etc. Great. We did get through all the questions. I think they were all really, really great. Any other additional or things that like popped in your brain during this? If not, I can give you back the last 20 minutes of your Friday. Do I recommend getting an Aura? Amazing. Oh, good question. I have one. I really enjoy it. But the thing is, it's not actually tracking basal body temperature. What it's doing is it's tracking your body temperature change. And then if you have, they kind of upsell you. If you get the Natural Cycles app, they'll transform it into a body temperature. So the thing is I enjoy it for the sense that, do I rely on it solely as my indicator of fertile, not fertile? No, because like I said, there are methods of fertility awareness. So I'm talking about symptothermal, which is what I use, I teach, and enjoy and recommend. But there are methods that just use sympto. So they're just using cervical fluid. And there are methods that are just using thermal. And that's what Aura is doing. So you can see that there is a potential that you are missing out on a whole nother biological set of data points. So that is one of the reasons why I think it's a great tool. And I did look up natural cycles, efficacy in relation as like a birth control. I think they're at 98%. So okay, like I'll take that extra 1% on them, but 98% is right at standard for birth control options. So I would say if you're just interested in, if you don't have super high stakes, people with super high stakes, like I definitely cannot get pregnant. I definitely do want to get pregnant. I would go symptothermal. But if you're doing it just to get more in touch with your body, absolutely. I think it's an amazing like stepping stone for fertility awareness for sure. What if you don't have cervical mucus? Excellent question. But if you have a cycle, I have lost visibility. That great question. So luckily, like I said, you can still get information from just thermal, but what the symptothermal will tell you is maybe why aren't you having cervical mucus? Maybe you have low estrogen levels. Maybe it is related to a thyroid issue. So understanding the whole picture will really help you understand, is it hormonal? And then if we see, actually no, maybe it's hydration. Like, are you drinking enough water? And omega-3 actually, so you can see how they all tie in. Omega-3 supplement can help increase cervical fluid production. So again, it's a great source of fat. That's why. But what I'm saying, Jenny, is there's usually always a reason. So is it truly that you don't produce cervical fluid, or is it because there's an underlying issue that's preventing it? And then it could just be like there are some people who just don't, they don't have enough to do that whole pulling situation. That's fine. There are things like and when I'm talking about checking cervical fluid, like it's a toilet paper swipe before you go to the bathroom. There's a way to do that too, correctly. But you don't have to like stick your fingers anywhere, is what I'm saying. But when you look at that toilet paper, like, is it shiny? Is it gummy? Like what that too gives us a lot of information about what's happening hormonally. And then from there, we can then start to fine tune the application of it. But you have a cycle. So the fact that you have a cycle is great. So that's like, you can definitely use this tool to start to figure out, okay, why aren't I seeing it? Or am I actually seeing it? It's just low volume. What about ways to increase volume and go from there, if that makes sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, of course. Oh, sorry, you didn't have to reply to me.
That's
I'm
okay.
just hanging out, seeing if anyone wants to throw anything else in the chat. That was these are some really, really good questions. And this was the first Q&A, like open one I've done, but I really actually enjoyed it. And I plan to do more of them, like a monthly thing potentially. So, thank you all for giving me an hour, 45 minutes of your Friday, because I don't know, I really think that I could shout this from the rooftops, but I'll take the internet. Are you planning? Oh, when? Great question. So I think if you reach out to me, let's stay in touch in January, like late January, I'll be able to, because I did ask Lisa, I said, oh, I have a couple people that, because I keep talking about it and I've been doing it and they're really excited. She goes, okay, there are a few things like, just data protection wise, I would have to make sure go through correctly. It's like more for you guys than for me, but I'm very excited about it as well. This also, while we're on the topic, can be used in situations of lactation or perimenopause. Like there are methods for this too. So no one's excluded when I say this too, by the way. Very cool. But yeah, thanks so much, guys. I will give you the next 15 minutes back. I will send out the recording and I'll also provide any links of anything that I mentioned, like the books and the supplement for ease of reference. But thank you all so much. This was awesome. I'll see you all very soon. Bye.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.